Hey, everybody out there on YouTube. Welcome to the pre-show cocktail hour. I am Jay. That is Aaron.
Hello.
And that is Tony.
Hello, hello.
And we are here today talking about HBO's The Last of Us. And I've got a very appropriate cocktail here. It's my spin on a classic, the penicillin.
Oh.
Okay.
So we see, antibiotics and medications playing a key role in Joel and Ellie's journey. So it's traditionally made with two different types of scotch, some lemon juice, some honey, syrup, and some ginger. And it is absolutely delicious. I am really excited about this.
So it's an old-timey drink called a penicillin. You didn't just
Correct.
grow some penicillin.
I thought you renamed it.
Oh, no, that's not... No, that's not my invention. I suppose it's not really custom. I just made a penicillin, and it's delicious.
It sounds good.
Obviously, it had to be after the penicillin was discovered, but I find it interesting that someone would name a drink after an antibiotic. Like, let me get some tetracycline on the rocks. I am not drinking a cocktail tonight. I'm drinking a Mountain Dew Zero, which, as I said before the show, tastes like green popsicle, which is the most amazing version of all popsicle flavors.
Green.
What about this bottle of power drink?
What flavor?
Blue.
Blue's not a flavor.
It says flavor, Blue Blast.
Oh, Blue Blast, yes. Put that in the trunk.
Like, I hate lemon and lime, but green, whatever that is, love it.
Do y'all like energy drinks?
Some of them?
Have you had these ghosts?
No.
They're just called Ghost.
Are they hauntingly good?
Oh, should. I don't know if that's their tagline, but it definitely should be.
My wife watches a lot of like My Haunted Hotel and like Ghost Hunter stuff, so there's a lot of ghost puns in our family.
No, they've got these, like, I don't know what this scientist that makes flavors, a flavorologist or something, I don't know if that's real, but whoever is on their team is killing it. Like, they have Sour Patch flavors, they have blue and red, and it tastes just like the blue and red Sour Patches, and they have some other different flavors. They have some Warheads, but they have a sour apple green Warhead, and it is delicious if you like sour things.
Number one, Sour Patch Kids have definitely upped their game lately. I don't know if you've looked around. There are like all these different flavored Sour Patch Kids everywhere, like watermelon, grape, strawberry, just like solid. Like the whole package, it's only grape flavored Sour Patch Kids. It's only watermelon. It's only strawberry. It's only peach. It's only whatever, blue raspberry. And then they have tropical flavor Sour Patch Kids. Like, they're going wild.
They're going the Skittle route.
Yeah, right now they are. They're expanding.
What a time to be alive.
It is. It's a good one.
Can't travel, but I'm going to find me some peach-flavored Sour Patch Kids.
Gas stations, man. I don't know. You can get racetrack with QT out there, man, but they're always at the gas station.
Tony, do they have Wawas where you are?
Yes, Wawas and Sheetz are like the big two gas stations.
That was always a treat when I would visit my grandmother in New Jersey in the summer, was going to the Wawa.
I was up there.
I haven't eaten their food too many times, but
it's like a really nice 7-Eleven, right? At least the one I went to was.
Yeah, it's just like a nice gas station.
Yeah, I'd say it's like equivalent to like a QT, like a gas station plus.
I don't know why, but like I get all these like, well, I do know why because I'm friends with some people who live in Japan, but I get all these like, Japanese like gas station videos, and the gas station or the convenience stores in Japan are so much nicer than our convenience stores. Like, they have like quality food, like good stuff. Our stuff is basically a white bread sandwich with mayonnaise and turkey. Like, it's awful.
Yeah, they have like actual stations where you can order, I don't know how fresh it is, but it's made to order food, like a burger or a hoagie or something like that.
Yeah. So it's just, well, again, I'm also told
at the Wawas.
I'm told apparently KFC in like, Japan is a gourmet restaurant. So things are not always the same around the world.
KFC and 7-Elevens have a chokehold on the Southeast Asia markets.
Man, it wasn't in Japan, but one time Tony and I were in Norway, and kind of similarly, they had really nice convenience stores that would make you like, or at least heat you up food on demand. And so Tony and I go in there, and it's like 7:30 in the morning, and we're gonna go do some early sightseeing before our train. And Tony comes out and he's got like a to-go container that's like steaming hot coming off of it. And I'm like, hey, Tony, what you got there? And he goes, lasagna. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, Tony, what do you really have? And he's like,
breakfast lasagna.
And he shows me he's got lasagna.
That's brilliant.
Hey, it was good.
Oh, man.
I mean,
That's one of my core memories.
I hate like breakfast cereal. Like I just grew up thinking that it was the lowest form of breakfast. I remember whenever it was like cereal as the option, I would like go like heat up a frozen pizza over eating cereal. So, Tony, you're a man after my own heart. So, I'd be right there with you.
Want to get this crazy train rolling?
Let's do it. Let's pull back the doors, bust open the books, and talk about some The Last of Us.
Previously on the show.
There were situations that presented this show that I would have got whoopings growing up.
I would have had what my parents would call a belt party for doing something like that.
Bluey running in and out of the house while it's raining, pulling mud into the house. I would have had my ass beat. It would not have been Mom comes out to join me in ruining clothing, toys, things like that for playtime. Like that's the situations where I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is sweet, this is cute. It's incredibly annoying.
I feel like we're all pretty, like, intelligent people.
Let's also say, though, I think you're kind of right, though. That is a little bit of lazy naming to name the Jack Russell Terrier Jack Russell. That is kind of like naming baby.
But it's like, what other animals in the world can talk besides dogs? Like, were those monkeys dogs dressed in monkey outfits in the movie? Or were they monkeys that could talk in the movie?
You're not wrong.
It's like, you don't have fingers, all you have are toes. All your feet are feets. There's no hands.
Granddad, that show's old. That's not even in, hologram.
Ultimately, people make their own decisions, and that's kind of what's wrong with people.
Will Smith eats bowl of spaghetti.
It's exciting and scary at the same time.
There's too many pretty pink bows in the show to make me feel like it's something that's setting up anything other than a lot of disappointment for the future.
I don't know, it just was so funny when she would just like land upside down on everything. She went to go visit her dad playing rugby, I guess. But they called it football. They call rugby football? Or do they call it rugby?
Well, it's rugby football, and then
Yeah.
there's also Australian football.
Which is like American football.
Yeah. And
Isn't
then there's
that-
soccer football, which is soccer.
Yeah. I did not know that.
A lot of foots. A lot of balls.
Are we definitely in dog years in this show? Because I'm like 6. This is a full-grown dog.
Like, it's by the end of it, you're like, oh, it's all awful. There's no good answer. You just grab one, get it over with.
Hello, and welcome to the Show, probably the world's best TV review podcast. Welcome to episode 60. Today, we review the 2023 Madcap Buddy Road Trip series from HBO. Arby's doesn't have free lunch, it was a restaurant. This month on the Show, The Last of Us. I'd like to welcome you inside the broadcast booth. I'm Jay. I'm joined, as always, by my 2 Hall of Famers. To my left, a man whose wit extends farther than the tendrils of a cordyceps fungus. It's Aaron.
Hey now.
And to my right, the grizzled smuggler who can liberate my QZ any day. It's Tony.
Hello.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to
Happy
be
to
here.
be back.
Very good to be here. To our listeners, check out our Instagram for news about the show, including our postponed 2024 tour and cruise, along with plenty of other bonus content. You can find us on Instagram at the Show Pod. Send your emails to the TV podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube if you're not there already at our YouTube channel. That's Mandamus Radio. You can find me individually at jsuesponte. Aaron, where can we find you?
Well, you can no longer apparently block me on Twitter, so you can find me there at Tenacious Aaron. So,
just you or everybody?
Apparently, not. You just can't be blocked anymore. Like that's what they're changing it to. So, we're all going to get to see all of the hateful things on the internet together.
Wow. Great. No one ever harasses anybody, I'm sure. Either.
Nobody. That's never going to be a bad idea.
Well, where can we harass you, Tony?
You can harass me on Instagram at tpinquite.
Now we actually have some actual news. The show started out as a humble Google Live hangout, if you can believe that, if you can even remember that.
I do remember.
We evolved into our current form, available on YouTube as well as some select podcasting platforms, and we are now available on Stitcher. Fans have been inundating us with messages, emails. Somebody stopped me in the grocery store the other day asking us why we were not on so many people's favorite podcasting app, Stitcher. And you know what? Good news. Now we are.
I'm glad to hear it.
You know, Jay, I'm really glad you put that together. Because of the Stitch.
That was the joke there.
That was the joke. If we're gonna have some pretty bad puns, we might as well start off with some really, really bad ones.
I love it. But we're now available on Stitcher. The show is now available on Stitcher, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, Castbox, Overcast, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public.
Are we on Mega Upload? Sorry, that's an old reference.
It's the show after dark.
Troy and Abed in the morning. Nice. Welcome back, all you night owls.
Troy, why don't we open up the phone line?
There is no escape.
I was just, I don't know if that website even exists anymore.
And of course, you can always check out the YouTube channel where you can find our pre-show cocktail hour. This time around, we talked about a delicious penicillin and some other delicious drinks. But today, we are here to talk about The Last of Us. Before we get into that, let's take a little journey over the unofficial scoreboard. You guys been watching anything of note lately?
Yeah. Just finished season 1 of a show called The Guest Book. It's actually the third show by Greg Garcia, the guy who did My Name is Earl and Raising Hope. And it's an odd one. Had fun, mostly along the way. Kind of got darker towards the end. But it's basically like little vignettes where like people come to this like mountain town and stay at a lodge, or not lodge, like a cabin or something like that. And the story's kind of told through people writing in the guest book what crazy things transpired at their stay at the cabin. So it starts off kind of fun. Abed Danny Pudi is one of the first characters that comes and stays. And so that's one of the reasons why I watched it, because I love him in Community. But cool. It's kind of like, I could tell why the show didn't last longer than 2 seasons, right? Like it's one of those like B kind of sitcoms. I had fun mostly along the way. I will say most of my time has been spent with the fabulous number of video games that have been coming out. That being like Diablo and Zelda, and things like that. So I've also been playing Hogwarts Legacy with Christy because she's into Harry Potter, and she's started to see that video games can actually tell really good stories.
I want to play Hogwarts, but I'm waiting for it to go on sale eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, we played through the first 2 Mass Effects, and she was like, I want to try something different. So we started at Hogwarts, and right about the time that Hogwarts started, I also got Zelda, and then Diablo came out. So I'm like playing 3 different games at once right now.
Any standouts among those games?
Zelda's going to be game of the year, in my opinion. It's.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys about this. I thought this was really interesting. Like, Zelda did no advertising, and Diablo's done, like, killer advertising. I think Diablo's gonna, like, blow us out of the water sales-wise, but in my opinion, Zelda is actually just a better game. Like, it's amazingly put together. It's just an absolute love letter to fans of the franchise, and it's something that new players can get into and kind of explore, but I just can't stop having fun with it. Diablo, I'm having a good time with my friends, like doing stuff with them. But like whenever I'm sitting there, like wanting to do something, I want to go get on Zelda. Like I want to go explore and, you know, build crazy shit. But like the reason why I even got into it was because all the TikTok and short videos that I would see on YouTube of people building wild and crazy things. I was like, dude, I want to try this out. That to me, that actually was more effective at advertising, just seeing other people playing the game, than all of the commercials and shit that Diablo has been doing. So I don't know. What about you guys? Do you think that kind of advertising is more effective, like through social media, or do you think the old school advertising still reigns supreme?
I think Nintendo doesn't have to do anything.
You think that just the name carries it? Yeah.
I mean, like, they put out so few, like, first-party titles and they actually, like, they make them good. It's kind of like Sony. Like, when there's a Sony first-party title, you know it's going to be good. But I think Nintendo has even better, like,
name recognition.
Yeah, like, power of, like, if it's a Zelda game, it's going to be good. If it's a Mario game, it's going to be good. Because they're not going to put out a bad version of... Because that's what basically keeps them in business. It's not the power of their hardware. They never have, like, the most powerful graphics or anything.
They haven't even offered a new console into the recent, like, console wars, right? Like, the Switch
I think they just put an OLED on the Switch, I think, is all they did.
No, what's that mean? Just a better screen?
Yeah, OLED versus like a regular one. So I guess it should probably look a little bit better, but I don't even think it's like more powerful or anything.
I think it's actually smaller too, and you can't take the controller pieces off. Like it's actually a handheld.
Oh,
like I saw it's like cheaper too. But Jay, what about you? Like, what do you think about like social media advertising versus like traditional commercial advertising stuff?
Well, in this case, I was pretty equally disinterested in each game because Diablo is a little gory for me, and I've just never been able to get in any Zelda games. But I think I would 100 times be more likely to play Zelda than Diablo, just because I've seen so much just grassroots chatter from people that I know in real life talking about how great of a game Zelda is. And, you know, compare that to the Diablo commercials that I'm forced to watch during the soccer game. Like, I'm going to be much more persuaded by my friends telling me that Zelda's a great game.
That's really interesting. I forget that, like, I don't do a lot of Nintendo games, and I when I do, it's kind of like what Tony said, because it's Zelda or it's Mario or something like that. But Diablo, I didn't even like see any of the commercials. I just bought it because of sheer name recognition also, right? Like everybody I know is playing Diablo and they're all like, it's a great game. It is, but it's also, yeah, like you said, it's a very gory, violent game. And if it's not your flavor, you know, you're not going to have fun doing it.
I've been like working out in the field like the last month, so I haven't really been watching any shows, but I've been playing games, mostly Rocket League, and then, yeah, Diablo ever since it came out, like, I guess now it's been over a week, so been grinding it hard. Rocket League review, being a diamond sucks, or Smurfs everywhere. All the champs get bored and Smurf down a diamond, I swear.
Is that like intentionally losing so that you can play against people who are less good than you?
Yeah.
Does the soundtrack still slap?
Oh yeah, man, they got good songs.
That's good.
Do they like rotate the soundtrack in Rocket League?
There's a bunch of different. They're just like constantly adding new songs to the list, and then they have a pretty big library of older songs too.
That's interesting. I've never really gotten into Rocket League, so I didn't know if it was like Tony Hawk. Every time you sign on, it's the same 5 songs to play.
No, they switched it up pretty regularly, and it seemed like the music that they were playing in like the lobby while you were waiting was always, you know, pretty good. Got you pumped up to play some car soccer.
A lot of Euro stuff.
Yeah, but I like that kind of thing though. So,
Well, Jay, what about you? What's your unofficial scoreboard got on it?
oh boy, I kind of similarly also haven't had a lot of time for the televisions, but I did watch Ted Lasso, which concluded its run, and that, I think, if that's a show that you liked, if you watched season 1 or any part of it and liked it, it ended in a way that's very likable. So definitely worth finishing. Another show that has not come out yet, so I don't exactly want to rate it, but just kind of put everybody on notice. Strange New Worlds is going to start its second season this coming week. So I'm really excited about that show to come back for a lot of reasons, but mostly because it's been highly publicized that Strange New Worlds is going to do a crossover episode with Lower Decks, which is the animated Star Trek show that's going on right now. And that sounds pretty bonkers and a lot of fun.
I feel like there's going to be some weird thing where there's going to be parallel, like, universes, and there's going to be like a cartoon version of the crew, like, and they run into the Lower Deck people.
I'm really excited to see how they work it out, especially because those two shows happen in two different time periods. So there's going to have to be some kind of crazy metaphysical nonsense to go on. But I'm just excited to see how they do it.
Are there going to be 2 crossover episodes? Like, they're going to have live actors in Strange New Worlds play the animated characters and then draw in the Strange New World characters in the Lower Decks, like animate them? Or is there going to be one episode that mixes the two somehow?
As far as I know, it's one episode, and they've already released some production stills from at least the live action portions. You know, we don't really know if it's live action or animated or a mix or what, but at least part of it is live action. And they've released some stills of the voice actors who play the Lower Decks characters in their, you know, Starfleet uniforms. Because one of them is Jack Quaid from The Boys.
Oh, really?
He actually voices one of the main characters on Lower Decks, so he's going to be in it.
Have y'all kept up with The Boys?
I have not watched anything past the first season.
Yeah, I haven't either. I need to.
Yeah.
I need to, because I really like that show.
It's good. It's just so much. Like, it's
over the
a
top.
lot. It's a lot of
I don't mind over the
unnecessary
top.
things, but
I went back and watched some episodes of Trailer Park Boys and the movies, and I forget how over the top that show is. Like, it really is over the top. Like I guess when you're like immersed, like watching it from episode to episode, you kind of forget like how ridiculous the universe that they operate in is. But like
you get desensitized.
You get desensitized. Yeah, me and Christy recently watched Countdown to Liquor Day, and the last 40 minutes, like Christy's like cringing from Leahy showing up like half naked at the bank and everything.
And I plan on getting drunk as fuck tonight. Drunk as fuck.
And she's like, once he shows up, it's just a giant slow train wreck. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what always happens. And I'm like, oh, I guess, yeah, that's not normal.
Man, to be fair, like Countdown to Liquor Day, and especially that sequence you're describing,
is
like
brilliant.
that. It's brilliant. It punches far above Trailer Park Boys'
Weight
like
class.
relative production weight. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I told her. I was like, that what they were able to pull off with that last 40 minutes of the movie is absolutely impressive. So, but it is another example of just over the top. And I don't know, like I think that's why I like The Boys too, is that they're willing to cross the line sometimes, or a lot of times.
they go away. There is no line. In some of
The line's gone.
I don't think if you don't like gore, Jay, there's a lot of gore in that show. Like people getting exploded and cut in half, and like
It's the
superheroes are bad
superhero
guys.
realism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the quasi Flash guy running through that girl
The first
and like
episode.
vaporizing her right at the start.
Yeah.
like yeah, that really lets you know where they were going.
Well, Christy says, like, you know, they show you how far they're willing to take the show in like the first, 10 minutes to let you know whether or not you want to stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
But all right, we ready to talk about Last of Us?
Yeah, let's do it. This was an Aaron pick, so Aaron, tell us about The Last of Us.
Yes, so The Last of Us is an American post-apocalyptic drama television series. It is based off of a 2013 video game, which was developed by Naughty Dog Studios. I've been playing Naughty Dog games for a long time. I feel like I remember playing them on like the PlayStation 1. So this studio has been around
Crash
for a while.
Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot, yeah. Man,
Uncharted.
I remember... I didn't know they did Uncharted, but
Yeah.
So these guys have some pretty good chops, let's say, for making games. The story is taking place in a world where because of essentially climate change, a fungus named, is it cordyceps?
Cordyceps.
Cordyceps, that's what it is. Cordyceps evolves, and it's the fungus that can like take over a bug and like drive it around like a zombie. And it evolves to be able to take over humans. And essentially, these humans are like zombies, and the civilization kind of collapses, and we're left with kind of these, outposts of quarantine zones run by the government, raiders.
Oh, you mean raiders?
Yeah, raiders. Yeah, raiders.
All right.
People who are surviving out in the no man's land, the zombies. And our story kind of follows Joel, or mostly follows Joel, who's a smuggler, and a teenager named Ellie, who has been bitten, and we find out is immune to the fungus's, I guess, ability to take over a human. So Joel, is tasked with smuggling her across the United States to find a mythical Firefly medical facility, which the Fireflies are a group of resistance fighters, so that they can find a cure and save humanity. That's kind of the general plot of the story. And then along the way, we kind of get almost these like video game levels of experiences as we move through the story.
Yeah, they start off in Boston. They're trying to get to Wyoming at first, eventually going from Colorado into Utah.
Again, I will say right off the bat, I got some really, really heavy Leftovers vibes from this show from the very beginning. Like, for some reason, a lot of the way that the show was filmed, a lot of the sound, the music choices, or lack thereof at times, reminded me of The Leftovers. I know you two both were big fans of The Leftovers. Did that trigger anything with you guys at all?
Yeah, actually, now that you say that, that is something
not at
that...
the time, but yeah.
Especially as the show neared its end, I couldn't help but kind of compare the two shows in their bleakness in its outlook, I think.
This is less esoteric than The Leftovers, but yeah, it captured an aspect of human desperation that I feel was similar in both.
Yeah. I think there was especially one moment where now I'm struggling to remember who it was. It was probably Ellie, but somebody says the line equivalent to "the world ended" and yada yada yada, and that's basically what the Leftovers is about, except that society doesn't necessarily collapse. We all just emotionally collapse.
Mm-hmm. There were just many times I would sit there and I was like, man, there's a lot of times that this is eliciting the same feelings that the Leftovers did, and again, in a good way. I like the Leftovers a lot, and I'm not gonna lie, I like this one a lot. I also will say Joel, and Ellie as our two main kind of drivers of the story, I thought that they were very complex and interesting characters. How did you guys feel about, there was a lot of these episodes where we would get 5 minutes of Joel and Ellie and then an entire story of someone else, right? We have the Bill and Frank story, which I thought was phenomenal. But Joel and Ellie are in that episode for 5 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, we have a lot of these kind of side stories that are told through their journey. And I really liked it. I mean, it was very moving, very powerful stories that made the world feel real and immersive.
It was good. I mean, it's been a long time since I played the game, but I mean, if they didn't do that, there's all characters that you run into in the game, but if they didn't do that, it would just be you just run into these people for a small section, and most of the game is you're fighting and killing people. So I like that they fleshed out and gave everybody their more moments. I think we just run into Bill And I don't think we get any. Maybe we get a little bit of like alluding to his backstory, but like I don't remember in the game like the whole. I really liked their whole backstory. Bill and Frank added a lot to it.
Mm-hmm. And Nick Offerman's performance in that, and Murray from The White Lotus.
Yeah, like, I noticed that.
I was sitting there, I was like, that's Murray from The White Lotus.
And Farscape, of course.
And Farscape, that's right.
No, the two of them were excellent together. Like, the chemistry between them was really something that you felt.
Oh, absolutely. There were a lot of moral situations that were presented in this that are challenging. Kind of like halfway through the show, I'd lean over to Christy and I said, Joel reminds me of Nietzsche's Übermensch. Basically that he decides what his morals are at any given moment. Like, he decides what is good and what is bad. And I think we kind of see this really kind of play out in that final episode that, Joel is not necessarily interested in saving the world. He was doing a job taking care of this girl. And when he realizes that means that she's going to die to save the world, right? He decides that doesn't need to happen. And, I thought about this last episode. I don't know about you guys, but I thought about this last episode a lot. And at first I kind of thought that Joel's actions were because they didn't tell Ellie that they were going to kill her to get the fungus. But I think it's just he didn't want her to die. He didn't want to lose his daughter again, so to speak. But I think so. The whole series really puts a lot of really hard moral situations in front of you. And Joel's choices in them are very hard to swallow a lot of times. And I was very curious about what you thought, Jay, because I know that you do have an issue with gore and violence and stuff like that. Like how this show portrayed it. Christy definitely had to look away from the screen numerous times.
Yes, there were a handful of moments, probably about average of once an episode, where I just, I couldn't even watch through the picture frames.
I know exactly what you mean.
Where I just couldn't. But on the whole, for the most part, it was stomachable.
There's not too much of the. It's mostly like story based, not too much of the fighting and the zombie action.
I agree, but sometimes because of that, the tension was 10 times worse. Like the mall episode with Ellie and Riley. The tension in the last 30 minutes of that episode, because I'm like, Ellie gets bit, things go south.
You bit? Huh? You bit?
And they're just being teenagers, right?
And Riley's gone because Marlene talks to that. I think in the first episode, she's like, "Was Riley a traitor or something like that?"
Yeah, there was reference to Riley. So that's one of those things where they did a really good job of building the type of tension that I enjoy in these shows. I definitely know what you mean about watching through the picture frames, having to Christy would stare at the pictures on the wall and see the screen because she couldn't watch it face to face. And I do that all the time with all the cringe stuff that we watch. I think probably one of the hardest things was when Joel killed the kid that Ellie paralyzed. That was a tough scene. Just all around. But man, was it acted well.
Yeah, the acting all around was just great.
Pedro Pascal he plays a murderer very well.
Yeah, he does. I knew Did y'all know the story? Did you know that the daughter was gonna die in the first episode? Yeah.
I knew because I bought Last of Us on PlayStation years ago, and I started it, but at the beginning, I don't know, I was just too slow, and I lost interest. So I got to go back and play it now. But I knew that happened, so I wasn't surprised by that. Christy was shocked, but I was like, oh yeah, I knew that was coming.
Yeah, and the game definitely got big feels. I don't know if it's just because I'm sure there were games set in Texas before, but I just felt because I was in Texas when y'all are still in Texas when it came out, and I played it, and I was just like, oh, this is in Texas, and then it just it hit me hard when I played the game, but then I guess I just had known it for so long that it didn't hit me hard in the episode, but I think I was watching it with my sister, and she got teared up. I definitely got the feels. And I got the feels when he's like, I guess it's the last episode, he's like, when she's like, oh, time heals all wounds, I guess. And he's like, it wasn't the time. And I was like, oh, I got the feels. I'm not even a dad, but I'm assuming Jay maybe got some bigger feels based on being an actual father.
I wish I had. That moment and a lot of the moments, it didn't really do it for me. A lot of it felt telegraphed in a lot of ways, and in some ways it felt predictable.
Because of the daughter dying?
Maybe this is just how my crazy mind works, but the cover is Pedro Pascal and what's her name from Game of Thrones? You know, the other
Ramses.
Bella Ramsey, yeah, not his daughter. So you can do the math in your head when they get confronted by a soldier and she's bit. Like, what's going to happen?
Mom, have you been bitten?
No, but Philip has.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All fair. I think that is absolutely telegraphed if you're paying attention or have played the game. I am curious. I feel like they definitely telegraphed that Joel is going to be driven by kind of a paternal aspect, right? He kind of falls into a paternal role. The choice at the end to lie to Ellie. I thought that the lie was stupid. I was like, well, that's obviously not a very good story to tell. But do you think that he was wrong to lie to her about what happened? Me and Christy argued about this a lot, because this was actually something I was like, is it really a choice? If you're presented with, hey, if you sacrifice yourself, we could potentially save the whole world. Is that really a choice that a 14-year-old can make? Right? Because Ellie's supposed to be 14 years old, right? Mm-hmm. So, is this a paternal reaction, or is it just a selfish reaction? He doesn't want to lose her. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What do you think? Do you think that this is just Joel being selfish, not wanting Ellie to be taken from him like his daughter, or is it also a recognition that that's not something that a 14-year-old should have to make?
I took it as 100% selfish. Joel acting on his own demons, that he has this daughter-shaped hole in himself that at least up until now has started to be filled by Ellie, and he can't let that go.
See, I definitely think that's part of it, but I definitely took it as the whole sequence, find someone else, talking about the things that she needed to do, like, hey, you could do this, all the different things. I also thought it was very interesting how it went from her filling the silence all the time at the beginning to him filling the silence at the end. But I really felt like there was an aspect of the paternal which drove so many decisions after, I would say probably after Tess? I can't remember the girlfriend at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But whenever his girlfriend at the very beginning died, I feel like that was kind of like he now had to take care of her. He was now more in the paternal spot. The daughter thing, yeah, but I don't know. I guess if it's only the loss of the daughter, then I see that. But I also see someone having a relationship now with this person and wanting them to, you just fought to keep them alive, right? Yeah. I guess to keep them alive just to die, that seems contradictory. So
I think it's selfish, but I didn't hate it. I think he's willing to burn the whole world to save her because he loves her, and he knows that she wanted to be special and she probably would have chose to kill herself, so he's going to take that on himself too and lie to her, even though he knows that she's probably going to hate him if she finds out, or that she probably already knows deep down that he's lying to her. So.
Oh yeah, she for sure knows based off that last statement.
That's just kind of how the only people that are made for the new world are not good people, like Joel. Frank was not gonna. It was just Frank was so delusional. And, if he didn't run into Bill, he was gonna die so easily. I'm surprised he wasn't dead already. But it's everyone good in the world dies because they aren't willing to be
the hard thing.
Joel. Yeah, what's his name? Henry. Henry basically it's just like, yeah, Henry was the same. It's like, I don't know, it's definitely the wrong moral choice that in a vacuum no one would ever make, to like betray the leader of the resistance when it's definitely an evil like organization torturing and raping and killing people. But he did it to save his brother, and the same thing, like, I guess not 100% it would have been a cure, but like Joel will like let the world suffer just for Ellie. Like, it's not the right choice, but.
Well, I will say this. I was a little disappointed that there wasn't a biopsy concept anymore in science, because I was like, we're going straight to removing the brain.
We're just going straight to lobotomy.
Yeah, we're just jumping straight to that one. I was like, I feel like even the Fireflies should have had at least, some concept of, let's test this out before we chop a head off. But man, like when Joel just made his decision, he just wiped them out. I also now kind of question their ability to, take out Fedra if one dude with their own guns could take them all out.
That was a good scene. I liked the muted scenes, or the muted sounds on that part.
I don't know, like, I think that the whole sequence with Henry and his little brother and the Resistance, I think that was supposed to show that, power corrupts, right? The worst Fedra organization in the United States basically run like a mafia, and as soon as the people who get, overthrow them, they turn around and do the same thing to them. Mm-hmm. That to me, I didn't see that there was really any difference, and I think that Tony's right. Like, in order to survive in this type of situation, awful things have to be decided on. Kind of like the cannibal preacher at the end. Like, that one was rough too. But what do you do? At what point do you, just let everyone die?
His outward persona was so strange. I know he was like a mega creepo, but like, I don't even understand the whole story about.
It felt incomplete.
Joel killing that guy. Like, obviously, like that dude straight up like
attacked him.
Had no reason and just went for him and tried to kill him. The whole group did. So I was like, why is it like?
Well, to be fair, though, every time we've had run-ins with people out in the wild, most times it just immediately launches into violence. Like, people don't say, "Hey, howdy, howdy, traveler, are you friend or foe?" Like, they just immediately start shooting or throwing rocks at each other. So it seems like at this point, in 10 years into Collapse Society, out in the wilds that you don't run the risk of letting someone talk to you.
It's like 20 years, right?
2003 to 2023, yes. 2022.
Because he's like 36 or something, and he gets fast forwarded up to 56.
Yeah.
A spry 56.
Well, like at that point, the world is your gym.
Yeah, well, the world is my gym, too. It's just the bit of it that's actually a gym. That's going to be my gym.
Yeah.
But I think that, I don't know, each episode I thought did a really good job of telling the story. The only one I felt was incomplete was the cannibals story. I felt like that was a little bit more disjointed. I also felt like there should have been a little more resolution with the other people. They just kind of killed the leaders and then, see ya.
Oh, the village with the cannibals?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know they were cannibals. They just thought they were eating deer.
No, the people didn't know they were cannibals, but Ellie and Joel figured that one out. So I feel like you would kind of be like, hey, the dude that you were following had y'all eaten. Also, he got the biggest portion of dude whenever they were passing out the food. I don't know if y'all noticed that. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I guess that's what you got to do to survive.
Well, okay, am I the asshole for saying that given that they ate a person who was already dead and they didn't have to kill, like, who cares? If it really is the apocalypse and you really have nothing else to feed your settlement.
That's fair, but was that always how they came across their human meat? Because there were 3 bodies.
Yeah, there was already bodies hanging up.
There were 3 bodies hanging up in that shed when Joel
and he's like, there's only a few of us that know. It's not like it just happened.
Yeah, they've been eating people for a while.
True, but at least the one person that we see butchered, it's heavily implied that it's that person's like dad who died at the beginning.
That Joel killed. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is heavily implied.
It is
but
true.
They also are immediately like, we're just going to kill Ellie and eat her. So that's not like a big existential crisis for them whenever they decide to do it. So
True.
that kind of tells me that that's not the first time that question came up.
And maybe it still was. Like, I thought it was clever, which ended up not being clever. Like, I thought they were subtly, like, coding, talking about they saw Joel and Ellie. Like, oh, some of the guys saw 2 deer late last night. Could have just been something else. I thought they were, like, saw 2, like, outsiders that need to go get hunted and killed for meat. I thought that was a code. It ended up being a real deer, but I was like, oh, that's kind of clever. A clever way to frame it. Because then he's like, I sense doubt there. Like, maybe that guy didn't want to kill and eat people anymore.
I think that the pastor cannibal whole situation needed 2 episodes like the resistance leader in Kansas City. I feel like that was something, the big criticism I had of all the stories, that one I felt was the weakest. All the other ones, I thoroughly enjoyed.
I think that most of these stories could have used some more breathing room.
Yeah, give us 15 episodes or 12 or something.
Yeah, I wanted so much more of Melanie Linsky, the Kansas City. I guess she wasn't Firefly, but the Kansas City leader who was avenging her brother's death. I wanted so much more of her. I wanted so much more of Henry and his brother. Their interactions were some of the most compelling moments of this show. I probably could have done with more of Nick Offerman and Murray, but this show a lot of times felt like it couldn't quite decide if it was a mini series or a movie or what it was. The pacing felt so uneven at times.
The stories were not, like, I feel like we get kind of these weird, we get this story with Ellie and Joel, and then also we get this, like, cutaway to the story with Bill and Frank, and then we get a kind of back to Ellie and Joel. It is kind of disjointed. But is that a byproduct of it being taken from a video game, right? Like, this is them taking the bits and pieces of the narrative. I know that the story of Ellie and Riley came from a DLC that came out after the game. So, like, they're taking bits and pieces of story from the game and crafting it into a show. And I think that in my opinion, that explains some of it. 9 is a weird number, though. Wouldn't you agree for a series?
8.
It's 8 or 12.
Yeah.
I think I read that they started with 10 and they had to dial back because production was shortened because of COVID.
Oh.
Well, they didn't skimp out on the budget because a lot of this post-apocalyptic stuff looked pretty great.
Yeah, it did.
Did it feel convincingly as a world frozen in 2003 to you?
I guess I wasn't really thinking about that part of it too closely.
I don't feel that the specific cultural stuff that it showed was 2003 is weird also because you have, like, people who are into, like, 90s stuff. You have people who are into, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, look at the posters that Ellie has in her room in 2023, right? Mm-hmm. They're posters not just from 2003. They're, like, was it Terminator? There was a bunch of different stuff. So it's like whatever you can find, right? So it's like all the culture up to 2003, and then it's like frozen from that point forward. And I think the problem is that most of the stuff is just like broken down architecture. Like a lot of the cultural aspects are just gone, right? So it feels more timeless to me than it does 2003, if that makes any sense. Like the decay, the things that would have been reminding us, kind of like how when we went through the pandemic, like, pre-pandemic, how it was before. People like the things that reminded them of that stuff. I feel like by the time we get to the story in 2023, that stuff's all long gone, right? We're in recreation of culture, like kind of reclamation of culture, right? Trying to create something new out of what's left over. So it did not feel like 2003. It just felt kind of like timeless now because there's no technology, there's no cell phones, there's no TV, there's no nothing. So it's kind of hard to compare it. Kind of think back to that time. What would people be seeing? You know?
Well, if they don't change the story for the second game, I hope they never make a second season because the second game story is just not,
not as good?
good.
Oh no.
It's just they had some illusions during the show to the second game. I mean, the gameplay, the graphics, and the actual quality, I guess, of the storytelling is good, but just like I was not
a fan of the story.
A fan of the story, no. I want Ellie, and half of the game is literally you're playing a character and totally separate from her, like that you don't care about, like no one cares about, and I don't know. I could give you the spoilers, but just like people make no choices that make even less sense than the choices people make in the first season.
Did you notice that the actors who they used for, I think, both the motion capture and the voices in the game made appearances in the show for both who played Ellie and Joel?
And Tommy.
And the mother of Ellie, apparently, was actually Ellie's mother in the show.
Right.
No, Ellie is Ellie's, Ashley Johnson voices Ellie, and she was the mom in the TV show.
It said that was also she also played the mom.
Maybe she also played her mom, I guess. I don't know.
And the actor who played Joel, I think his name was James, the kind of second in command of the cannibal guy.
Oh. Is that Nolan North? Dude, Nolan North is he probably gets paid mad money. He's always protagonist voices in huge video games.
Troy Baker.
Oh, Troy Baker. It's Troy Baker and Nolan North are the two big names. Yeah, I like that. There's some allusions and calls out to the second game in there as well, but they need to change up some story.
Well, I feel like it's HBO Max or Max now. So they'll probably put a bunch of effort into landing the plane. Unlike Game of Thrones, which was just an absolute garbage shit show.
I was just talking about that the other day. I was talking with someone about how bad, for sure, 8 was, and then also 7 was pretty bad too. But just we started talking about the early seasons, and I was like, I forgot how great that show was because I'm so turned off by how it ended.
That the mistake of that show was starting it when they did. They should have waited at least until this dude died, and they at least had someone to write a finishing book.
Yeah,
I think that was the problem. They just once they ran out of source material.
I didn't even dislike 6, and maybe even half of 7, but the other half of 7 and 8 for sure, it all fell apart. So disappointing. Well, I heard the House of Dragon's good.
I've heard mixed things.
I want to go with Daddy and have some hot tea.
I will say, though, that we have a situation where The Last of Us is a game that's got a cult following. People rave about how this show is so true to the game. This is the show that was constantly brought up in comparison to Halo. When the Halo show came out, people shit all over the Halo show because it wasn't like the game, that they completely missed the mark. And then Last of Us, the people were like, this is absolutely the essence, the spirit of what the game is. It tells the same story, but without making us just basically sit through the game. I think that they're right, that the storytelling of this was I liked it. I thought it was really well done. I also agree with Jay that the story needed a few extra episodes. If COVID cut things short, I kind of get it, but I hear now, this show might be cursed then, because I hear they were almost done writing part 2 whenever the writer's strike hit. So that's some bad luck.
Maybe it's good luck, I'm telling you.
I think I think this show could have used double, triple the number of episodes. I think that I wanted more about the conflict between the Fireflies and Ferda. I wanted to know a little more about why Ferda was so evil.
Ferda, like Fedra, but Ferda.
Wait, what am I saying?
You said Ferda.
Ferda.
Allegedly.
Yeah, Ferda.
Fedra.
I think that one moment that you could have done an entire season on Joel and Ellie getting to Jackson, where his brother was. Because I think that this show could have really made something out of Ellie's chance to have a normal, or at least what approximates a normal life in this apocalypse, where they could just, there was not even a question of, could we stay here? That was not even addressed at all. And I wanted them to kind of marinate in that, but instead it was just kind of, nope, we're moving on.
I agree with you, but I also think that there's a universe where, and this is something that I struggle with because I like things to be fleshed out, but there is a value also in kind of the glimpses, right? Like they know that they are on a mission. They have something to do. Ellie doesn't want to stop, right? She doesn't want to be tempted. She is on a mission to be special, to save the world.
I don't have to, Aunt Tilly. I'm special.
And so, like, I think that would be a great thing to explore, but I also can understand why someone who has this mentality would just be like, I'm ready to go. We found your brother. He's okay. We have something to do. But I also feel like that's kind of been Ellie's personality from the very beginning once they left.
Yeah, she was pretty driven. Like, she was the one telling Joel, we're going to finish what we started. But I never felt effectively sold on why she was so determined.
I feel like they should have showed what happened with Riley. I feel like that was a mistake not to show that last sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that does drive a lot of her decision making. It's why she tells the story at the end with Joel when she's like, hey, you asked me if I'd ever killed someone. The first time was whenever I had to kill my best friend. Did everything you say happened at the Firefly base really happen? Right? So I think that we're not always given the full picture of why things are done. And again, it's the same reason why I'm dissatisfied with the cannibal story, is that what Joel and Ellie were like, fuck these people, let's get out of here. Yeah. It is not our responsibility to tell them that they've been eating people. and again, I agree with you. I'd rather there be some type of reckoning for the things that are happening. Mm-hmm. More exploration, more fleshing out. But I also think that that's not the story of two nomads traveling across the country, right? They're not there to save those people, not in that way. They're not there to teach Tommy what communism is. They're not there to whatever the thing is that they're run into, saving people from the fall of Fedra in Kansas City. That's just a simple run-in. But I think that's also why, like, you kind of see the PTSD slowly develop in Ellie as the show goes on.
The hard part of, like, their bonding too is, like, they bond a lot in the game. There's a lot of, like, talking while you're moving around the game, but I mean, in the game you're walking from place to place. So you're like they kind of showed a scene where he has to boost her up and grab a ladder. She throws a ladder down. There's like a lot of that, like, puzzling scene, and like he pushes her on a raft and a lot of things because she can't swim, which is kind of like alluded to. And so there's like a lot of allusions to like a lot of gameplay, and that's where a lot of their bonding and like stuff happens in the game. But you can't just like show people doing that kind of boring stuff in the TV show. So I feel like we miss a little bit of like their growth together. Like they have to speed that up a little bit in the show. Well, I liked it, but I think it's a little bit of nostalgia from the game. I really, really liked the game. It was maybe the best story in the game I'd played up to that point when I played it back in the day.
It's a 2013. It's been a long time. I didn't realize how long it had been since that game came out. So, are we ready to do some scoring?
Sure. Before we do some scoring, was there an object or something from the show that caught your eye that you felt would make a good rating system?
Fatalities?
Pun books?
Pun books, I like that. Well, Aaron, how many pun books?
I'm going to give it a solid 8. I think that the show is one of the better stories that I have seen, I think it's an interesting take on the zombie genre, which, again, we didn't really talk too much about it. Like, the fungus kind of is almost a side character. It's not really what the story's about. It's just a bit role. And despite that, I thought that the science or the explanation of it was one of the more interesting ways to kind of address it in a very scary kind of way. Like, that's way more terrifying than some virus in some ways. But I feel like from all the things that I've heard about the game and all the things that I've heard from people talking about how they lived up to the essence and spirit of it, I can see how they did. I agree with Jay, need a little more time to flesh out some stuff, but I think it's an 8. I think it did a good job of telling the story, and I definitely had feels. I shed quite a few tears along the way.
How about you, Tony?
Yeah, the same. That's what had in my head before Aaron said it, but an 8. Yeah, like I said before, like, you really, to say it's the best, they really nailed a video game adaptation in a way that I don't think I can think of that, like, any movies or shows have, like, really nailed. And I understand the show's a quality show. I don't even think you have to know anything about the game, which people probably don't, but I thought it was good. Thought the sets looked great, the acting was great. Obviously, I like the story, so it worked for me, and I'm an 8 pun volumes out of 10 on it.
8 volumes of puns from Tony and from Aaron. Wow. Well,
Jay's going to have to go 2 to get the average down.
Well, I have zero experience with the game apart from I read the plot summary on Wikipedia after I finished the show to see how it matched up. And if this is a great and faithful adaptation to the game, then kudos. But I didn't think it was a particularly good television show. I thought that like we talked about, the pacing was a lot of times uneven. I thought the characterizations weren't very deep. I never really felt like I bonded with the characters. And I spent a lot of time trying to think about what exactly it is that didn't work for me here. And my lady wife, I think, put it really well, where she was saying that zombie shows are always about how the real horror is from what we as humans do to one another once our comforts are taken away. The real horror is never the initial problem. It's never actually the zombies. It's about what humans do to one another. And that's a vehicle for you to make a statement about humanity and human nature. And I think, Aaron, when you compared it to The Leftovers, that's something I wanted to avoid, because The Leftovers is something that did that so incredibly well and was so emotionally moving for me. And it feels a little unfair to compare The Last of Us to it, because it just completely failed in that regard. I kept thinking to myself, what are they saying? What is the subtext here? And I found myself telling Lindsay the other day that I feel like Bluey was able to get across more subtext in 8 minutes than this show got across in an hour. So this show, I'm going to come in at a 4, because there was so much promise here. This is a show done by the guy who did Chernobyl, which, if you listen to the show is my yardstick for greatness. So I had big expectations here, and it was just it was a disappointment. I wanted so much more. So I've got 4 books of puns, 8 and 8. If you guys want to vamp, I'll do some quick math if you haven't beat me there.
I definitely can't do math like that. I do think that this is really interesting to me, because I definitely had way more feels in this than I did in The Leftovers.
Wow. More.
Substantially more. But I think that for me, it's the esoteric of Leftovers that actually took away from it, and it's the much more realistic feel of Leftovers or Last of Us that actually, for me, again, I kind of see it as the glimpses. Sometimes I don't need to know a full person's story in order to feel how they're feeling. Like, I don't know, Bill and Frank's story, I didn't need another second to feel those feels. And I didn't really need any more of their backstory to feel it either. So to me, whereas I needed a lot more to understand why the disappearance of the people in Leftovers mattered in those situations, like I get that they said those things. Like these vignettes for me here drove home much more powerful human emotion because I guess like those situations felt more realistic because you actually have raiders.
Oh, you mean raiders?
Yeah, raiders. Yeah, raiders.
All right.
And cannibals and stuff like that in human history in our world. Whereas just people mysteriously disappearing, that's not something that really can ever happen. Or really can ever have a sense of real existential dread. So I guess that to me, like the feelings that were elicited in that, they were interesting, but they weren't something I could connect to. So this, for me, it's really, I just find it very fascinating that you didn't want to compare it because I felt like this did what The Leftovers did substantially better because I felt like the feels were more tied to something that I could identify as people actually doing in our world. Whereas a lot of stuff in The Leftovers, I feel like because of the reasons why, the thing was very esoteric. There was this mysterious aspect. Again, the scene where what's his face like has that rebirth sequence. I don't know if you remember in the ground. There's that one episode. It's been a while since we watched it, but I remember like thinking during that whole episode, I was like, "What the hell's going on here?" There was never a point for me in this series, I guess, from a story point where I was like, "What the hell's going on here?" So it's very fascinating to me that you had that feeling. Like, what are they trying to do? Like, because I guess the raiders.
Oh, you mean raiders?
And the slavers and the different things, that just, to me, is, like you said, naturally what happens when society breaks down, right? Humans default to kind of the worst aspects of ourselves.
I don't know. I'm neutral.
No,
I love The Last of Us, but I also really like this one.
Last of Us is like Christy's, or Leftovers like Christy's like favorite show. Like, it's phenomenal. It was one of the things that I remember thinking. I was like, man, this is it's really, really good. It's really sad. And there's definitely a lot of sad feels, but I felt like these feels whenever I was like again, the Bill and Frank one for me was the one that like captured just like raw human emotion in a very real way. I kind of want to now rewatch The Leftovers because it's been what? We watched that a long time ago. Yeah, that's pre-pandemic.
Yeah, season 1 for sure is like pretty great.
It's funny that you say that because I, for one, am very bad at math, and I thought that our next episode, and not this one, was number 60. And I was thinking that because we did Twin Peaks for number 50, that maybe I would start a kind of personal thing of nominating a historically significant, a greatest of television history show on the 10s. And the show that I kind of had in mind for it was The Leftovers. Now, of course, number 60 is the show that we're recording right now. But yeah, it's funny you say. It's funny you say you want to rewatch The Leftovers.
Well, it's been so long. I remember how it ends very vividly. I was very disgruntled with the ending, but I don't know if I was very disgruntled. I remember it. The more I chewed on it, the more I was dissatisfied with it. But I feel like Tony said, the first season of Leftovers blew me away. I think it's about the time that like the preacher is whenever I kind of feels like it kind of meanders. But it's been years since I watched that series. And
I'll watch the whole of season 2 just for International Assassin. That's my jam.
I don't even remember season 2. Now I'm thinking about it and I need to.
Season 2 is with the disappearing children. And like the firefighter guy, they moved to that Miracle. Oh, Jarden, I guess.
Jarden, yeah.
And it's okay. Takes all place there.
Well, I appreciate you guys vamping for me so well. Partially because we actually had tornado sirens going off at my house. If you couldn't hear them.
Was it 6.66? If I'm going to try to be funny in my head.
Correct, 6.6 repeating. So that puts it a little bit under halfway. It's tied with The Haunting of Hill House and with Miracle Worker Season 2, just below Tokyo Vice, just above Letterkenny.
Very nice.
Man, Tokyo Vice, that is a show that did not stick the landing.
did not.
Season 2 coming in the fall.
That is
Is it coming?
Yeah, it is. It got renewed.
Yeah, they've been filming.
Final season of Jack Ryan. This dude, I don't know if you like the first 2 seasons, but the 3rd season was really good of Jack Ryan on Prime.
I've heard for some reason people say that the 3rd season of a show is really, really good. It always makes me question, were the first 2 seasons not?
Well, look at The Office. Look at Parks and Rec. Look at Star Trek: The Next Generation.
It's weird. Like season 1, it's like, I mean, because Jack Ryan, the character, he's like an analyst.
Okay, Lindsay, are you forgetting that I was a professional twice over, an analyst and a therapist, the world's first analrapist?
That gets, I guess, thrust in these situations. Like season 1, he's like actually mostly an analyst.
The joke's anal, right? Did I get the joke correctly?
Season 2, he's like, I like season 2, but he's kind of basically good at everything. He's like a Navy SEAL type. I mean, he's not a Navy SEAL, but he's like performing like a Navy SEAL, basically just running through and like tearing people up. And the same in the 3rd season, but the 3rd season is a lot of like spycraft stuff going on. So it's good. High stakes. Nuclear war on the horizon. It was just really good.
I definitely went back and watched the first season of Parks and Rec. Enjoyed it more than I thought I did. So,
like once you see where the characters are going,
You're
it
right.
kind of makes a lot more sense about where they start from. But
It's
so
true.
many of them are so obnoxious at the beginning.
Yeah, Leslie's not. It's Leslie is like Michael Scott. Like Michael Scott is not good until they just made him an idiot instead of an a-hole.
Yeah.
well, are we ready to move over to the Wheel of Randomonium?
Let us approach the bench.
I also need offerings for the wheel because we did not do that before the show.
We got the clap in, but we didn't put the shows on the wheel.
I will start with mine. I am bringing This Fool on Hulu. I watched 1 episode and was intrigued by it, so I stopped watching. But essentially it's about a guy who lives in LA, works for like a thugs to hugs type rehabilitation center, and his cousin who went to jail for something like some crime in the 90s has gotten out and he's trying to help him acclimate to life back in modern times. It was a little cringe. I'm trying to always push my limits, but it's sitcom, it's funny, it's on Hulu. So, Tony, what do you got?
I've got, in true Tony fashion, myself forgetting to think of a show. So I'm Googling real quick.
So Jay's gonna vamp for Tony.
Yes.
Jay, what do you got? I was trying to give you an opportunity here. Jump right in.
Ooh, controversial. I just want to see like what all the cringe is about with The Idol. Have you heard about it? I hear it's like intense and bad, but
I hear there's a lot of fucking.
Okay.
The Idol? What's it on?
Maybe not.
HBO.
Max?
Maybe just
well,
it's just called Max now, Jay. Come on.
It's called Max now.
Bro.
Well, no, there's still the HBO network, but then there are also Max original shows.
I don't get. You know what? I had to download a new app,
I had to download an app.
and it just signed in and it remembered everything from the old app. But why couldn't they
Also
just
true.
update the icon and the name of the app? Like, why did I have to download a whole new?
Because
App.
the version on the Xbox was like a piece of crap, and I'm kind of glad that they rebuilt the app from the ground up because it wasn't great.
Let me think of another one. While,
He's gonna
while
think of
you're
another one.
talking.
We're
Yeah.
not doing the
Think of
Idol.
another one.
Oh, did I scare you away with all the fucking?
He doesn't want to watch that with his sister, Jay.
I'm sorry, Tony. I will be offering White House Plumbers, a HBO,
Thoreau, baby.
the real HBO miniseries starring Woody Harrelson, Justin Theroux, Lena Headey, Domhnall Gleeson, Judy Greer, Toby Huss, a whole lot of people. It is a historical show, but it's a comedy. It's done by the White House Plumbers, the
Nixon guys.
The Nixon guys, yeah, exactly. And it's done by one of the showrunners behind Veep, so it brings that kind of political satire energy. I watched about 10 minutes of the first episode and stopped and said, save this for the show. So,
Nice. All right, Tony, have you found something other than your idol?
About this,
American Idol.
About this, The Crowded Room on Apple TV. I don't have Apple TV, but
somebody does.
Oh, so no. The Crowded Room. It's got Tom Holland in it. I think I saw a preview for it. It's got Amanda Seyfried, Amy Rossum in it.
The Crowded Room?
Yeah.
All right. So since I got the last one, if I get picked again, then I'm out, correct?
Out for next time.
We gave you the we both put Last of Us.
But
I
was the person who was picked. We put a number so that we could keep track. All right, spin to win.
Spin, spin, spin.
Let's spin the McConaughey wheel.
All right.
Oh, that was a nail biter. That was a nail biter.
All the way up to the edge.
Ooh, I am on a streak.
Got my boy JT in it.
Yeah, man.
Woody Harrelson.
I mean, it's like we can't get away from him. You know, Last of Us, Mosquito Coast,
Zoolander.
Tell me, who watched the second season of Mosquito Coast? Did you watch it?
I forgot they made that. I did not watch it.
Hell no. Oh man. Like I might nominate it just for fun. I might nominate it along with the second season of Siesta Key at any moment.
If we're going to have...
I thought we watched the first 2 seasons of Siesta Key.
Nope, just season 1.
Was there like 25 episodes in the first season?
There was like
episodes we watch.
I mean, there were like 24. There was like kind of a season 1A and 1B.
We got through like the breaking of what's his face's jaw. That's what I remember. So if that's all in season 1, then we watched one season.
Yeah, and the infamous single and ready to jingle sweater.
Can you take that sweater off?
It's really comfortable.
Oh my god.
I miss that show. So much.
What I will say is I think that we should like have a I don't know, some type of challenge where we have if we pick a show and it like gets a score lower than a certain amount, then we have to watch like another season of Siesta Keys.
Yeah, there should be some kind of triggered punishment. I do like that. Yeah.
I like the idea of there being a cost if you pick a show that's like, you know, does something like, I don't know, gets below a 4. Like, oh, well, now we gotta watch another season of fucking Siesta Keys.
Your show, when it gets below it, then you have to watch the next season.
Well, see, but then what's Jay's? Because it can't be something that he likes. So it's gonna have to be like Jay's got to watch a season of Evil Dead.
Oh, please no.
See, that's the thing. That's my reaction when you're like, let's watch another season of Siesta Keys.
Yeah.
I hear the new Evil Dead movie was really good. I wanted to see it.
This is what I will say, Tony, is that I am a huge fan of Evil Dead, not because of the gore, but because of the campiness, and that's the thing that they cut out of the new Evil Dead movies. So I feel like it's probably pretty good if you like the torture porn. But if that's not your thing, then probably not something that you want to sign up for.
Okay.
Well, the fans of the show are well versed in torture porn because they listen to us. But I would like to thank all those listeners for listening to us on whatever platform of your choice. We're so glad that you're here with us. This is just a ton of fun to do the show for you.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank the two of you guys for joining me here today.
Always a pleasure.
You are very welcome. It's good to be here again.
And I'm very much looking forward to next time we convene and talking about the White House Plumbers.
Yeah, I'm very curious how you can take a historical story like this and turn it into a comedy. I guess I never watched Veep, so I'm not sure what I'm in for. So
Veep's funny.
I've heard good things.
I only watched like the first or second season, but it was pretty good.
All right, well, looking forward to it. I want to thank our executive producer, Dick Wolf, and until next time, I will be seeing you in the trees.